liberty is a coin, and on one side is stamped liberty, freedom. And we all know about that. And everybody agrees with that. Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter. I've not ran into an elected official of any particular political stripe that doesn't agree with freedom. But on the flip side, in order to have that liberty coin have value, it's got to be stamped. And stamped on the other side is accountability. You have to be accountable for that freedom. And that's what the founders were counting on, is that people could self-govern.
What do you got for me? Yeah, what do you got for me? Baby, would you stand and fight?
Well, Congressman Tom Tiffany, welcome to the Speakeasy. I run this humble little podcast here in my home, just outside of La Crosse in the Holman area. So if you're ever here in person, I would love to have you here physically in the Speakeasy. Maybe we could mix up a cocktail or two. But for those in my audience who aren't familiar with you, and I think there may be one or two who aren't, just give them an introduction about what your story is and what got you called into public life. And you know what? I got to have a little bit of fun with this, so forgive me. But tell us your damn story.
Yeah, for sure. So I passed through Holman yesterday. I'm a day late here. Could have bopped in and saw you. We were down in the La Crosse area doing a few things, including visiting Dairyland Power, good stuff like that. It was great to be on the west side of the state. I don't know if you saw my background, Chris. That's where I grew up. In western Wisconsin, north of you, a little ways, a little town, Elmwood, Wisconsin. 7 brothers and sisters. We all grew up on the dairy farm. We were milking cows and feeding calves at a young age, bright and early every morning. I went on to UW River Falls and got an agricultural degree there, and ultimately ended up in the North Woods of Wisconsin, where I met my wife. And we've had a great life here in the North Woods.
Well, and I want to hear about the damn story. Come on.
Yeah. So, once settling here in the Northwoods, God, that was way back in the late 80s when I moved up here. And my wife and I opened up our own business. It's called Wilderness Cruises. And we owned and operated that for 20 years. We were up on the Willow Flowage, which is one of the reservoirs here in northern Wisconsin. Spectacular place. A lot of people.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, they describe it as Canadian-like because Willow has very little development on it. So we did these cruises where we entertained tens of thousands of people over the years, doing dinner cruises, stuff like that. It was so much fun. But my side gig was the dam tender on the Willow Flowage. So each of these reservoirs has a dam tender. And for 29 years, I was the dam tender on the Willow Flowage. I'm a dam man.
I love it. Well, and then what called you into kind of the life of service? You started in the assembly, right?
Yeah. So, there was kind of a couple things. When I was at River Falls, I had an economics professor who was really terrific, and he taught Chicago school, Milton Friedman, free markets, free people. And I got to tell you, the light just came on for me. I was like, yes, this is how you have prosperity. This is how the world should look like. But I always wanted to just run businesses, own my own business someday, which we ultimately did. And I mean, that's what always excited me. But then after having been, after owning our business for probably about 15 years, I was getting frustrated with what was happening down in Madison. And I was like, why not me? I'm going to take a shot at this. And so in 2010, I ran for the state assembly. Came in the same year that Governor Walker did. We had a $3 billion deficit here in Wisconsin, if you remember. And red tape was tying up businesses like ours. And people were just like, why should we stay in Wisconsin? It's, we were just on a downhill trajectory. And I was like, I want to do something about it. And got elected, and we proceeded to do something about it.
I love that. That's, I think that's the other thing too. Like I was speaking with Christina Estenson just the other day, and we were talking about, the need to get more people engaged in the process like this, especially at the local level. I was telling her I'm getting ready to run for county board in La Crosse County. She's got a couple of people who are candidates in Trempealeau County, but it seems like there just aren't enough of us willing to do that. And I mean, especially at the local level, these are the things that affect our pocketbooks more than anything else. So God bless you for getting involved when you did, and now you're getting to the point where you're ready to run for governor in the state. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you kind of a job interview type of question. So let's we kind of ask this question all the time when we're hiring candidates at work. Tell me, what does a Governor Tom Tiffany look like in a couple of years from now? How is Wisconsin getting better, and how are you defining the role of governor?
Wisconsin's going to become one of the prosperous states of America. We've seen the woke and broke, and you do right there in Holman, across the river in Minnesota. Minnesota and Illinois are headed in the wrong direction, and Wisconsin's going to make a choice, I think, in 2026. Are we going to go the woke and broke route like Minnesota and Illinois, or are we going to be one of the prosperous states of America? What we'll see is rising incomes. We'll see property taxes that are frozen, making home ownership more affordable. We're going to see declining energy rates. We used to be among the lowest in the Midwest. Now we're among the highest for utility rates. We're in the bottom 10 to be able to create a new business. We're going to see the brain drain reverse here in Wisconsin. We're going to see young people that are going to want to stay here in Wisconsin and use that great entrepreneurial burst that they have in their 20s and 30s to be able to create jobs and businesses and stuff like that. We're going to see them stay right here in Wisconsin. That is how I would define success.
Yeah, I love that. I think you nailed it. My son just moved to Atlanta. He got his degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Law School, and then ended up in Atlanta to take a job in the 11th Circuit Court. And I mean, to your point, we're losing that brain drain. That brain drain is happening right now. Young people are moving away from the state to seek opportunities that we should have here. So thank you for pushing for those kinds of policies.
Yeah, and I would there's one other thing that is really going to be key in this campaign, and that is education. We have fallen behind Mississippi with our K-12 education system here in Wisconsin. And
yeah.
for your listeners, I'm going to repeat that. We have fallen behind Mississippi. 1 and 3 fourth graders can read at grade level here in the state of Wisconsin. We have seen a collapse of our educational system. We saw the 200 sexual misconduct cases that were swept under the rug while Tony Evers was the head of the DPI, and Jill Underly while at the Department of Public Instruction. I mean, we are not in a good spot, and you cannot have a prosperous state if you don't have a well-educated populace. And we've always had that in Wisconsin. I mean, I think back, all of my brothers and sisters, the 8 of us, we all went to the local public school in Elmwood. We got a good education. My daughters were all out of school, K-12 anyhow, and they all got a good education up here in the Minocqua School District. They went to local public schools. I don't care if you're in a public, private, or a parochial school, you should expect that a kid is going to get a good education in Wisconsin. And we are going to make that happen, because what's happening under Tony Evers and Jill Underly is completely unacceptable. And it is going to be a key issue in this campaign.
God bless you for that, sir. I know, just like you said, Wisconsin used to be known for really good education. Well, 2 things, really. Our great work ethic and our education system. And it feels like a crime that we're losing those things now. I remember just a few years ago when I was working for IBM at the time. Now I'm blessed to work for Delta Defense out of West Bend. But when I was with IBM, I would go out to client sites. I think it was in Louisiana. And my boss said, well, hey, Chris here is from Wisconsin. So that was like one of the key selling points, because they knew we were going to get stuff done for them. So that work ethic is a huge thing. But like you said, education, it is a crime what's happening with our education system right now. And I just spoke with David Varnum the other day as well. And he was talking about highlighting education for his run as lieutenant governor. And I think the way he put it was this idea of accountability. We're pouring all this money into school districts, but we're expecting no accountability in return. And so maybe that's the key difference. If we get a little bit of accountability that goes along with those tax dollars, maybe then we can turn the results around. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't rule out putting more money into schools. In fact, we probably will but it will be tied exactly to what you're talking about. That's accountability. So we should have the money follow students and families. Let's pay good teachers more money. We should pay those teachers that do an outstanding job. They should get paid more money. And let's put the money into that and our local communities rather than the system. And ultimately, there's got to be accountability. And we go back to our school administrators and say, you guys got to produce. And then we will put more money in once you've proven that you can do the job. But that accountability part of it is key, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. God bless you for that too. Well, and one of the other things too that when you were at the La Crosse Lincoln Day dinner was just over a month ago, I think, in Onalaska, you had mentioned this idea of defending liberty. I love when you talked about that. And yeah, just tell the audience a little bit more about like why defending liberty and what that means and why it's important.
Yeah. So I give this Memorial Day speech that I cite the founders who, as often in their documents that they wrote, they use the term liberty rather than freedom. In fact, I just read the book. It's a very short book. It was George Washington's farewell address. And he rarely uses the term freedom in that book. He uses the term freedom or liberty frequently. And I think there's a distinction. Freedom's important. But liberty is a coin, and on one side is stamped liberty, freedom. And we all know about that. And everybody agrees with that. Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter. I've not ran into an elected official of any particular political stripe that doesn't agree with freedom. But on the flip side, in order to have that liberty coin have value, it's got to be stamped. And unstamped on the other side is accountability. You have to be accountable for that freedom. And that's what the founders were counting on, is that people could self-govern. Self-governance takes discipline. And so I just think that term liberty is one of the most beautiful words in the English language. And that's what we need to return to as a country, where people take responsibility for their actions. I mean, let's go back to the school example. I mean, one of the things that has to happen is parents have to be responsible. They have a responsibility also to their children and to the school to help their child be successful, read to them at home, those type of things. I mean, we have to be accountable for our success, regardless of what it is. And I think once we bring back, I think we can bring that attitude back that is epitomized by the term liberty. I think we can bring that back in America, and we're going to be a much more free, prosperous country as a result if we do it. And I can assure you one thing: I'm going to bring the term liberty back to the state of Wisconsin as governor.
And I am so happy to hear you say that. And I remember sitting there at the Lincoln Day dinner when you started talking about this, and it gives me goosebumps again here when you're saying this, because I feel I've had very, very similar thoughts as you about this. And the fun part is, as we're coming up on the 250th birthday of our country, I've been playing around with this idea for several weeks now, and I think I'm ready to kick this off. But I call it the Restoring American Liberty Initiative, RALI. So the idea that I have in mind is I want to get people to rally around the flag, rally around the Declaration of Independence, and rally around the Bill of Rights. And I have a couple of little, exercises that I want to do to try to spread that patriotism, spread the knowledge of these types of things. Because I am 100% in agreement with you. Liberty is not talked about enough here in our country today. And one of the manifestations of that, I remember one of our local talk radio show hosts. It was right around the time when they were debating the Obamacare stuff, and I remember one of the talk show hosts said, "Well, what is Republicans' alternative?" And I'm like, how about liberty is the alternative? Why does the government always have to be a part of the solution? I mean, just like Ronald Reagan taught us in the 80s, the government is not the solution to your problems. The government is the problem. And so, here we are in a situation, and actually this is a great segue. I wanted to ask you, in Washington, obviously you're very keen on what's going on there with regard to the government shutdown. Honestly, with the government being shut down, I have been encouraging everybody, all my neighbors, look, help each other. Never rely on the government. So in segueing where are we at with the shutdown currently, and where do you see this going?
Yeah. So as we talk here on Halloween Day, happy Halloween. And
Thanks, you too.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think it's quite clear, as so often is the case with Senator Schumer from New York, this was purely a political calculus.
Yeah.
He wanted to have this this problem fester for a month leading up to the New Jersey and Virginia governor elections. Because remember, there's thousands of federal government employees that live in Northern Virginia. They want to make sure that they win that governor race because they, of course, Senator Schumer and the Democrats are blaming Republicans for it.
Mhm.
So many of them just follow along, those federal government employees. Yes, it's a Republican's fault. And so I think that has been a large part of what has been driving this is purely political calculus rather than doing what's right for the people of the country. Because this was very easy. The bill we passed was a continuing resolution, very simple. We didn't have any add-ons to it or anything. What does Schumer do? He says, I want to add $1 trillion more in spending. And so let's drive us deeper in debt, cause even greater inflation than what we have now. That would have been the result if we would have just capitulated to Senator Schumer. But hopefully it's done. But hopefully the American people are seeing through it also.
Mhm.
I give a lot of credit to our speaker, Mike Johnson. He's been consistent in his message and he's delivering that message every day. We did our job. We passed this. Senate, pass it also. And then let's get on with the business of the American people because we can do that. And, one thing that I think is forgotten in all this is that there's been 55 senators that have voted for this. A majority have voted for it. It's just Senator Schumer has stood in the way by saying, no, I'm going to invoke cloture, the arcane thing where you got to have 60 votes in order to bring a vote to the floor.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up too, because just earlier this week I spoke with Mike Hipsch about some of this stuff, and one of the things I pointed out was I thought it was really interesting. Senator Johnson gave a great speech on the floor of the Senate talking about how let's get this through cloture, then we can have amendments, we can talk about perfecting things. But I think you're right. I think this is all just political gamesmanship on the Democrat side. And unfortunately, like Mike Hipsch and I were talking about, it's hurting people's lives. It's hurting them in their pocketbooks. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. The other thing that I wanted to add in here in this conversation, like you said, is the Democrats think they can get away with this stuff because they used to own the corporate media. Well, now most people don't get their news from corporate media. They're getting it from like little podcasts like this and stuff. So people are not stupid. And I think the Democrats still think we are.
Yeah, I think when you go back earlier this year, when I can't remember what issue was percolating, it might have been the securing the border issue, something like that. And there was polling done, and it showed people that were over like 60 years old were kind of siding with the Democrats in regards to it, but those under 40 were not. And it's for precisely the reason you just laid out. There's so many of those who are over 60 that still watch the nightly news, whereas somebody under 40, they rarely have the nightly news on. They get their news from different sources, and so they have a much different perspective, and therein lies gives me hope for liberty.
Yeah, exactly. And I that's a great way to segue it back into the liberty idea, because ultimately we're not beholden to just a few people in the corporate media who the way I always put it on my weekly recap for this podcast is that you can never trust the corporate media because they only give you a tiny sliver of the truth and then manipulate you with the 99% that they keep out of their pages or out of their, evening news programs. They are lying to us by omission all the time.
And by the way, this is a really, really good point. As a legislator, that is the one thing that I always try to ask, like when a lobbyist comes into my office, what have you left out? Because it's rarely do they lie to you. I mean, they know they can't do that. That harms their credibility. It's what they leave out of the discussion that you need to know. And you're driving home that same exact point. What are they not telling us?
Yeah. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast as kind of a little hobby, was because like the La Crosse Tribune or the local news, they are leaving out a lot of details. And those details are almost always found very simply from press releases by Republicans. Our Republican point of view is all out there. We've got all kinds of people putting out stuff. You have a great weekly email that you send out about what's going on in the district and in Washington. So thank you for that. But like I said, these corporate media types, they always conveniently leave that out of their programs.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you mentioning that because we do spend a lot of time on it. We have nearly 50,000 subscribers to the Tiffany Telegram on every Friday. If anybody watching this wants to get it, you can go to my congressional website. You can sign up there, and we'll send it to you free into your inbox every Friday. But we try to chock it full of news, not fluff. We put the stuff that's been going on in D.C. and as well as the home district, and we try to make sure that it's got good stuff in it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's a perfect segue into the final thing. I know we're running up on time here, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. If anybody has more questions or they want to learn more about your run for governor, or like you said, what's going on in Washington, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so a couple ways. If you want to find out on the official side, just go to Congressman Tom Tiffany and you can search that and you'll find the official side. For the governor run, it's tomtiffany.com, real simple. And you'll see some information there. And if people want to contact us, just be sure to send a message. If you got events or stuff like that that's going on that you want to let us know about, be sure to do that. And we're really looking forward to crisscrossing the state and meeting the great people of Wisconsin. I mean, this is a great state with wonderful people. We need a state government and a governor's office that matches the greatness of the people of the state of Wisconsin.
Awesome. Anything else before I let you get out of here today?
Yeah, no, I hope everybody has a happy Halloween, and I appreciate you having me on here, Chris, and I look forward to coming back onto the Speakeasy again sometime. Let me know if I can do that, and no, I'm excited about this race. I mean, if there's one thing that I think people should know about me in terms of the time I've been in politics, I mean, I started out as a small business owner. That's what I love doing, and ultimately just got frustrated. But one thing, I have never put my finger to the wind. I've voted my principles. If you look at my votes out in Washington, D.C., there's been times I've been one of only 10 people that have voted against a bill. And I've always tried to follow my principles, and I'll do that. And I'm not going to change now. And there's a lot of people that said to me, you could just stay up here in the 7th Congressional District and you could have this as long as you want to. It's not why I got into politics. I got into politics to make this a better state. And that is my North Star. I will make Wisconsin a better state as the next governor.
Hi, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like this content, then please visit cooleyconservatives.com and click the Buy Me a Coffee option to leave us a tip. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social. Oh, and you can get our content in your email inbox once a week by subscribing at cooleyconservatives.com. Thanks again. Take care and God bless.
I want you